today's Knowledge webinar. Enscape, the fastest way to render your Revit models. Real-time rendering and VR are changing the way we design buildings. In today's Knowledge webinar, you will explore the benefits that Enscape offers to Revit users. You can see how it's possible to render a Revit model in seconds, not minutes or hours. And also you'll be able to discover how you can turn your BIM models into immersive 3D experiences and get a sneak peek into VR. Very exciting. Today's webinar presenter is Josh Radle, who's an application engineer at Enscape, and where he provides technical support and training. He's a passionate BIM and rendering expert who has consulted with some of the world's largest AEC company. You're in great hands today. And also with Josh is Daniel Monaghan, who is the business leader for Enscape in the Americas. And he has spent his entire career in the AEC software industry, helping firms migrate or improve their 3D workflow. You're in incredible good hands today. You know how lucky you are. And let me tell you a little bit about Novage. Novage is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, more freedom, best advice, faster services with zero headaches. Check us out at novage.com where you can find Enscape. And also want to announce that we have a September sale going on. It started yesterday and it will continue until the 20th. And you can save 20% on a new 1-year license. So get on it because this is pretty huge. The sales, it's for both node lock licenses and network licenses. So yeah, just jump on it. And now without further ado, I'm gonna share Daniel's screen so
yeah,
he can
thank you very
introduce
much.
you. Yep, he can introduce you to Enscape.
Okay. So, did you, okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. I have the presenter.
Good.
All right, great. So I'll share my screen. You guys can
Perfect.
see my
Yep.
screen. I hate that question. We always have to ask it. Thank you very much for the great introduction. And we're very pleased to be here today. Josh and I are to talk to you a little bit about Enscape, to introduce you to real-time rendering and kind of give you a taste of VR. For those of you who are familiar with Enscape and are maybe even Enscape users, this is a pretty intro presentation. So if you would like to take a deeper dive into anything that you've seen today, please contact Josh and I after this webinar and we can take a deeper dive into some of the technology that we're going to be explaining. So I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. First of all, it's called real-time rendering, right? And I think this is a bit of a misnomer for Enscape. So when we think of real-time rendering and we think of visualization, it's typically images like these that come top of mind. But probably more subtly and maybe even more importantly is how Enscape is really improving the design process. So traditionally, 3D visualization, it's really been isolated or disconnected from the design process. In most firms, the way the visualization process works is that we stop our design and then we create a separate visualization model, or in some firms, the design forks and it's sent to a completely specialized visualization team, or it's even subbed out completely while the design continues from the main branch. And this creates some workflow problems, right? These models that we've developed, the visualization model is now independent from the BIM model. The visualization model is really creating for a completely different purpose than the main BIM model. And so then at certain junctions, what we need to do is eventually we need to merge these designs that we've captured in the visualization model back into the design model. And, if we had to do this once, it wouldn't be a problem, but these merges can be difficult, and the models look very different now because they were developed for very different purposes. And there's a real cost associated with this workflow, not only in terms of the cost of manually having to do this coordination, but also the cost of really kind of losing data or having to manually coordinate errors and deal with missing information. And this cost, as I said, it might be okay if we only did this justification once, but as you know, design is iterative, so we're always doing this coordination. It happens very frequently in the design process. So the question always is why? Why do we have this traditional workflow? Why can't rendering and visualization, why does it have to be separate from design? Why can't it really be integrated into our design process? Well, the problem is with traditional rendering technology, it's just very time consuming. It can take hours or sometimes even days to get out a high quality visualization. Correctly configuring textures and materials and lighting to achieve a realistic result, it can be difficult. And it requires, in some programs, really specialized know-how. And even then, it requires a lot of trial and error. So as a result, in many firms, rendering or 3D visualization is really relegated to specialists within the firm using specialty visualization software, or it's even subbed out completely. With real-time 3D, it's a little different. This next generation of visualization technology, what we're doing is we're leveraging new advances in graphics technology. It's fundamentally the same rendering technology that you'll find in today's high-end video games and movies. And while the results are incredibly impressive, more importantly, as we'll see from Josh, the results are instant and they're very easy to achieve. Quite simply, with Enscape and real-time rendering, it's the easiest way to go from this to this. Now, everyone says they're easy to use. Everyone says they're going to save you time. For us, this idea of ease of use, it's not just jargon. These are really truths, and they're truths derived from the fact that Enscape is not a separate program. It's actually a plugin. Unlike other rendering programs, you don't have to exchange files or manually sync models. Enscape natively plugs into Revit, as well as SketchUp, Rhino, Vectorworks, and ArchiCAD, and it integrates into the Revit interface and into your BIM workflow. So in fact, if you know how to add a light or a material in Revit, you already know how to use Enscape. The results are just faster and easy to use. One real good way to think about Enscape is not so much as a presentation or rendering tool, but really as a live viewport into the design. Anything you do in Revit is automatically reflected in Enscape, and it's reflected in real time. And because Enscape is real time and it's integrated into Revit, what you find is that it becomes an essential tool for every phase of the design process, not just a rendering tool. And this is a big difference between Enscape and other rendering programs. Enscape goes beyond rendering, and we can help you really to see the impact your design decisions have on a building's architecture and construction, so you can quickly validate your design ideas and get to decision points faster. We help you to better communicate with other project stakeholders to avoid errors and ensure the teams are all on the same page. And we can help to really set your firm apart by giving you new ways to present your design ideas in ways that they're just not simply possible in Revit today. So with that quick introduction, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Josh and ask Josh to please walk us through Enscape and show us some of the benefits that I just described.
Absolutely, man. All right, here we go. All right, age-old question. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet. So let me, and there it is.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so Enscape, like Dan was saying, it's a real-time rendering engine. It's a plugin. Once you install it, it'll sit on top of your ribbon. In this case, it's Revit, so it'll sit right up here. And all you have to do is take your 3D model that you have inside of Revit, and all you have to do is hit the simple play button in the top left-hand corner. From there, that's going to take everything inside the Enscape window or inside the Revit window. It's going to push that inside of Enscape. There's going to be a menu that pops up on the far right-hand corner telling you how to navigate around. So you're going to navigate around using the WASD keys on your keyboard. W to move forward, S to move back, A to move left, D to move right. You can do some nice things right away, like change the time of the day. So if I hold down Shift and right mouse click, I can interactively see what the time of day is how it's going to affect my model. So it's a great way to be able to show your clients, exactly what the space is going to look like at virtually any time of the day. But now where the real power of Enscape comes in is, like Dan was saying, it's a workflow tool. So as fast as I can sit here and make changes inside of my Revit model, Enscape's going to update for me in real time. That's where the real power comes in. But not only can I delete things, but I can also keep working. So let's say we're doing a design review with the client, and customer or the client's like, hey, let's see what a window looks like inside of my wall right here. Perfect. All I have to do is keep working and just throw a window in there. Oh, I don't want to save. And again, that's where the real power comes in. As fast as I can sit there and make changes to my model, Enscape's going to update for me. It's that true real-time window into your model. So again, that's where that real power comes in, being able to see those changes happen in real time. Now, how I have these different types of assets and furniture and people inside my model, we ship with over 3,000 pre-built assets for us to choose from. So back inside of Enscape, we can go to this asset library button. This is where we have this is where we get access to our asset library. So let's say I want to start populating with some people or some trees. We can start populating with some people. All I have to do is pick an asset that I want. I can click place asset on surface, and I can place this anywhere inside of Revit, or again, any other design application I'm using Enscape with that we support. So here we go. Again, this process I'm showing you is the exact same way, just like in every other one. And there we can see our 3D model inside of Revit, and here's our 3D model inside of Enscape here. We can also place assets inside the Enscape window and have those push back inside of our design application. So let's say I want to start placing people again, place a person right here. All I gotta do is hit this apply change button, and from here, that's gonna take those changes and it's gonna push those back inside of my design application, in this case Revit. So there's kind of nice bi-directional link here. I can even grab assets, click on them. I can move them if I need to, rotate them into position. Again, click apply, and those new changes are going to be applied. So again, that's where this kind of nice bi-directional links coming in here. So now in regards to materials, while we're working, is we have our own material library. So if we go up here to our material library button, we can see this is where we get over 300 pre-built materials for us to choose from. So let's say I want to replace my wood floor inside of here with another wood material from our material library. All I have to do is pick the one that I want right here and click import selection. And what that's going to do is this is going to import this into my Revit project and create a Revit material for me. And like Dan was saying, if you already know how to do this inside of your design application, placing lights, placing materials, you already know how to use Enscape, because Enscape's just going to create that host design application material for you. So in this case, Revit. So now I can just scroll down, find my new created material. By default, Enscape's going to look at the appearance tab, and here's all of our different material maps that came in with it. Just click OK, and we're going to see that new material applied to our model. So now we can further edit this material using Revit's native material editor, or we have what we call our Enscape material editor. This is a little checkered ball right up here. Now what this is going to do, this is going to show you all the generic type of Revit materials you have inside your project already. Doesn't matter if it was one that you imported from our library or not. This is, if you got projects already that have materials applied to it, they're going to show up in this library. So now how we can utilize this to our advantage is we can start clicking on the different little icons, and now I can change the scale, I can change the rotation, and we can see as fast as I'm making changes, Enscape's updating for me in real time here. So again, that's where this real power comes in, is being able to see these changes happen instantaneously here for us and make quick changes right on the fly. But a really cool part about this, any change I make inside of this menu, it's going to push those changes back inside of Revit's material editor. So how I change the size and the tint color, those changes are going to be reflected back inside of Revit's material editor. We also have a way to create water and grass just by going up to any material that we have inside of our project, and any object that has those materials assigned to it, we can simply just click on that and go up to the type here and tell that to become water. And any material or any object that has that material associated to it will become water. Another really cool feature with this material editor is we can also do video textures. So you can have videos playing while you're walking around the space, doing a design review, or in videos like we'll see. And all you have to do is go up to the material that you have that texture applied to, and then go to where it says the albedo map and load in a movie file. And now when you're walking around doing a video, it's going to update for you, or it's going to start playing for you. And then the last cool feature about this material editor that we have is what we call our replace with Enscape material. So let's say this floor stone material, we want to see what some different type of Enscape materials are going to look like on there. So if I go to my floor stone material, click the 3 little dots here, there's going to be this replace with Enscape material. It's going to launch our material library. And let's say for tiles, I want to just get a preview of what some different ones are going to look like. So I can get a nice preview of what these materials are going to look like on my surface. And if I like any of these, here, let's go, I like this one right here. So if I like this one, all I gotta do is hit replace. And what this is gonna do is replace just the appearance tab inside of Revit. So it's not gonna mess with my naming convention or my surface patterns or anything like that. It's gonna replace just the appearance tab. That's how we can start utilizing the materials and the material editor to our advantage. All right, now before we get ready to do a rendering, we have what we call our visual settings tab here. So over inside of Enscape, here's our material library, or here's our visual settings tab. So let's say for early stage designs, if we haven't picked out materials yet or anything like that, we're just really focused on the overall structure and trying to get it going. We have what we call white mode. So this is going to turn everything in the scene completely white. So now we can focus really on the overall structure of the scene. We can do some nice sun studies as well. We can go outside here. Again, just do some really nice sun studies. We have a cool feature called outlines. So we can adjust the outlines of our scene so we can give it a nice, more cartoony sketch look. Then we have some different field of view, depth of field, perspective modes. Then we have some different image enhancing features like saturation, contrast, color temperature. In our atmosphere tab, this is where we're going to control the overall illumination of the scene. So the sun brightness, night sky brightness. And then our sky tab, this is where we can really dial in the whole Enscape cloud sun system. So when we're changing the time of day, we can see there's some clouds. I can control the density of the clouds. One cool little tech tip is if you turn up the density of the clouds so the sun's blocked out, you'll get some softer shadows and we can see there's a more nice diffuse look over our scene. Or we can even make it a clear blue sky day if we need to. Again, we got total control over how we all want that to look. And then let's go back inside here real quick. So then in our horizon line here, Enscape comes with a couple different ones. So we can do desert, forest, mountains, or we can also load in our own custom ones. So say you go on site with a GoPro or 360 camera and you've taken some panoramas, you can actually utilize those inside of Enscape, or there's a lot of free websites out there where you can go find some. So now you can rotate this into position, and all I did was click the drop down for Skybox and then load that in. Now what we can do is click this button to use brightest point of sun direction. So that's going to tie Enscape sun to the brightest point of the background image. So now when I rotate that image into position, we can see the shadows and everything are going to go with it. Then we can adjust the brightness of the background, give it a more natural look. And then in our output tab, this is where we're going to have the output resolution for our final renderings. And before we get ready to do a rendering, I always like to have this button check called show safe frame. So from here, this is going to show me the crop regions, what's going to be my final rendering. Because without this, I don't really have a good idea of what's going to be my final rendering. So now I can adjust my shot how I want to. And if I have the resolution how I want, it's perfect. One other thing too, if you plan on going to Photoshop afterwards, what you can do is export object ID map, material ID map, depth map, and an alpha channel. All right. Now, like Dan was saying too, we don't have to wait hours anymore to do a rendering, just a matter of seconds. So all we have to do is go up to this take screenshot button, tell it where we would like to be saved to, and let it run for a second, grab a sip of water. Perfect. And now it's done. So now what we can do is go, I can show you what that looks like. With Enscape being a real-time rendering engine, pretty much what you see inside the Enscape window is what you should get for your final rendering. So here's our main image, here's our depth map channel, here's our alpha mask channel, material ID, and object ID map. So the materials you can use to go into Photoshop and do further compositing with. But as we saw, matter of seconds to produce that rendering. We also have the ability as well to do batch rendering. So this is where you can select any 3D view you have set up inside of your Revit project, or any 3D view you've created with Enscape. And from here you can select all of them and start rendering them one right after another. We can also batch render panoramas, which we'll get into next. So the next way we have to get our designs over to our clients is through our panorama feature. So if everybody has their cell phone on them, what we could do is, let me get a QR code here. So let's go to, got the Teams one right there. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Cool. So now if everybody wouldn't mind scanning this QR code with their phones, we'll leave it on for about a minute or so. So this is another great way to get your designs over to your clients, because a lot of times clients or contractors can't look at a set of drawings and think of what the space is going to look like in a 3D, or kind of like map it out in their head. So what you can do is you can take these QR codes and you can put them on a set of construction documents. And then from there, they can scan it with their phone and then pull it up on their mobile phone, really get a nice preview of what this is going to look like. And there's a feature in here as well too, where we can hit replace panorama. So say you make a design change to the model, all you gotta do is regenerate a QR code or regenerate a panorama again until it's replaced the one that QR code's tied to. Tell your client to refresh it on their phone and they'll see the new changes applied to the model. All right, so hopefully everybody had enough time to scan that QR code. So we'll get into how we made those. So now what you do is go up to your 360 button here, click the drop down for mono or stereo. Stereo, just give the option to go to Google Cardboard. And then once it's done generating, you have to go to the Enscape tab and then go to your Uploads Management tab right here. This is where it's going to show you all the different panoramas that you've created. Here we go. And again, all you got to do is click this upload button right here. And from here, that's going to upload that to our cloud storage system where it's housed. And you click the three little dots, and then you get the option to save the QR code as a file, or you can copy the link that it's tied to. And then from there, you can send that to your client so they can pull that up on their phone or their computer if they want as well. Another feature in addition to renderings is, this is a Revit specific one. We have this render image in a document button. So if I click render image in a document, what that's going to do is that's going to create a rendering. And that is going to put that over inside our Revit project browser here. So now you can have renderings inside of your Revit project. So you can use this as a title sheet or starting view if you need to. That's what we did with this one here. All right. Now the next option that we have is what we call our video editor. So this is where we can start doing some nice video animations. So let's say I want to do like a nice pan shot out here. All I have to do is click the plus button down the bottom right-hand corner to add a keyframe, and then navigate over to where I want to go next. And then hit the play button again to add another keyframe. And then all you gotta do to preview this is just hit the preview button. And I'm getting a nice preview of what this animation is gonna look like. So again, water is gonna move, trees are gonna move, grass is gonna move. We can see my little TV screen up there is moving. And at any point, if I need to make a change to that, all I have to do is click the keyframe I want and then update the positioning of that and then click update, and those changes are gonna take effect. We can also key things. So we can keyframe the time of day. So we can do a really nice time lapse if we need to, just a focal point as well. So we can get really nice depth of field in there. So a lot of cool things we can do with this. One cool feature also is the ability to save this video path as a file. So now you can save this if you're working in a team environment. You can send this to your other coworkers who are working on the project, and they can load the path in and see the exact path that you were working off of and render from that as well. All right, our last option that we have to get our designs to our clients is what we call these standalone files here. So if we go up to where it says exe file, click the drop down. The first one up is the exe file. So this is where it's basically going to take everything inside the Enscape window and it's going to create like a playable game for it. This is just a file that you send to your clients. For this one, they have to have a system that meets our system requirements. They double click this file, Enscape's going to launch, and from there they can navigate the model, change the time of the day. They can go to different views as well if you want, different 3D views. And best of all, they can actually go into virtual reality with it from there if they have a VR headset hooked up. And our web standalone is basically the same thing, except it's through a web version. And then there's no VR in there, but they can still, this is just a link that you email to your clients. They can navigate the model, change the time of the day, freely explore the model without needing a license of Enscape. So those are the different ways we have to get our designs over to our clients. And let's look at virtual reality now. So Enscape's a one-click VR solution. So all you have to do is go up to this VR button, and I'm going to put my VR headset on here, and you guys are going to be seeing what I'm seeing through my VR headset here. Oop. So now what I can do here, start clicking and placing. There we go. Let me get my So you can see I have my controllers here. I'm gonna put on fly mode. So to navigate around in VR, all you do is click in place wherever you want to go. And from here, this is a way where you can freely explore your model at a true one-to-one scale sense. So now I can really get a sense of what the space is going to look like. Now I'm sitting down right now in my chair. But if I walk over here, I can get a really good idea of what it's going to look like and feel like to be inside of my kitchen. Now what I can do as well is I can change the time of the day just by holding down and then go into the outlines. I can adjust the outlines, get a really nice sketch look to it as well too. I can also take renderings from inside of here. So all I have to do is hold the rendering button in my right hand. Say I want to render an image from inside of here. There we go, perfect. I can also navigate around using this little mini map feature. So I just click and point anywhere I want to go. But this is a really great way to get your clients fully immersed in the scene. And best part is too, if they see a change that they want to make, I can make it instantaneously here inside of Revit, and Enscape will update for me in real time. So again, that's the real power of where virtual reality comes into play, because it gives you a sense of what it's actually going to feel like to be inside of your space here. So I'm going to come back to the real world now. All right. Yeah.
That is awesome, Josh. That was awesome.
Nice job, Josh.
Yep. So we can see here the renderings that I took. They're just going to be rendering real quick, and now it's done. So that was an overview of how some of the powerful features of Enscape and how it can be utilized and how you can render images in a matter of seconds and utilize it in your daily workflow. All right.
That's great.
Yep. Dan, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Yeah, I love that VRX. It's kind of too bad because when you're in the virtual world and then you can't make your changes, you can't be in two worlds at once, right? So
Right.
I think what's great about VR is if you put your client in that virtual world and then you're running Revit, now you can see these changes and make these changes, validate these changes live with your client in virtual reality. It's really fantastic. So thanks for showing that off.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's I wanted to kind of conclude the presentation with just by leaving you guys some useful resources. So for existing customers, these are useful resources. For people who are just starting out and exploring Enscape for the first time, these are also going to be very useful resources. So first, if you have any questions about Enscape technically, what a feature is or what we do, the first place I would go is the knowledge base. It's really just a fantastic resource, and with a simple keyword search, you can find answers to most of your commonly asked Enscape questions. Second, I would encourage everyone on the webinar to sign up for the blog. It's the easiest way to stay up to date with the company news. You'll also get helpful tips and tricks, and it's a resource that we're updating all the time. And then lastly, particularly for new customers, there's a new on-demand quick start video series, and these are a great way to get up and running very quickly in the software. In addition, at the very bottom of our website, if you go to enscape3d.com, you'll find some sample files. So here we put together some ready-to-go Revit sample models that you can automatically upload and explore and use for testing. YouTube is another great resource for learning more about Enscape. You'll find some great videos from our users as well as from our technical support staff. And then speaking of community, our message board is a great place to really get some unbiased advice and also answers to your commonly asked workflow questions. So Sample Projects YouTube and the message board are two great places. Before I leave you, I do want to let everyone know that at the end of September, we're heading out. We're going to be out on the road, so we'd love for you guys to come say hello to us. We'll be at AU and also at SketchUp Basecamp, so please stop by and say hello if you or anyone from your staff is planning on attending these two conferences. And then lastly, as we mentioned earlier, if you're interested in picking up a copy of Enscape, there's never been a better time. Nav Edge has it on sale as part of our September sales special. So from now until next Friday, you could actually order a new seat of Enscape from Nav Edge and save 20%. So with that, I'd like to kind of turn it back over to Nav Edge and see if we can help to answer any questions that might have come up during today's presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Daniel. So let's start from the end. So since you were just showing us VR, what kind of VR headsets does Enscape support?
So great question. So we support the Oculus Rift, the Rift S, support the HTC Vive and HTC Vive or Vive Pro, and then the Windows Mixed Reality headset. These can be found on our knowledge base as well under the virtual reality headset section.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And what are Enscape system requirements? Are there any?
Yep, so there are system requirements. With Enscape being a GPU rendering engine, you need a minimum of a 4 gig graphics card in your computer to run. If you're going to do virtual reality, we'd like to see at least an 8 gig video card to run. And that can also be found on our knowledge base.
All right. And last but not least, do you have a Mac version? I know, even I know the answer. Go on.
Yes, we do have a Mac version.
Cool.
It's available for SketchUp right now. Other design applications to come.
Okay, cool. Stay tuned. And I know they're working also, you guys are working on Revit. So yeah, stay tuned. Well, thank you so much, guys. I want to show my screen and remind everybody, about the promotion, 20%. It's a limited time promotion, so run, don't walk. And thank you for attending today. And this is the page in our catalog where you can find Enscape. So just check it out. You can always talk to us over the phone, and we're here for you to make it easy and effective with no headaches to purchase any kind of software you might need, both Enscape, Revit, or you name it. Okay, thanks again for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day, and thanks and to the Enscape team that made this presentation.
That was fun. Thank you very much for hosting.
Yep, have a good one, everybody.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.